and whatnot.
Okay.
So Salman Rushdie, first of all, the reason that he is in the news right now is because he was at a speaking event in New York last week.
By the way, giving a speech about America being, like a beacon of salvation for
a bastion of like safety for
controversial writers and stuff like that. Yeah.
And who jumps on stage but a angry Muslim who
guy from New Jersey but of Lebanese descent, I believe.
Who decided to carry out the fatwa put on Salman Rushdie by the
Ayatollah Khomeini.
Khomeini back in '89.
Yes.
After
in response to his book, The Satanic Verses, who, just to finish the whole explanation, they considered to contain blasphemous and like forbidden verses from the Quran,
which was odd.
So when we talk about stuff like this, whenever there's like a great anger in the Islamic world, because I was reading all about this and stuff and trying to decipher the original outrage, excuse me. And I'm like, it never is something that seems even like halfway justified. It's like, hold on, you're mad? What?
Yeah.
They drew a picture of Muhammad, so you showed up and shot the fucking place up.
God damn it.
Or you go kill 12 people at the Charlie Hebdo place in France, and it's always like, well. And then like the top Muslim leaders in the world, like there was that dude that we played last. We don't have to play it again, but
the
Iranian foreign minister, and we might have an article that says this, I think. But he basically came out and said that let's see, Iran blames Salman Rushdie and his supporters. So like basically comes out and like, you shouldn't have been pissing off Muslims. So like, I mean, from the original, how about this term? Islamic fragility. Have you heard that? I haven't.
I haven't either. Yeah, it should be a term. Now,
you got black people throwing around the term white fragility a lot. You have white people throwing around the term black fragility a lot in these like internet arguments and shit that you see. And I never see people saying Islamic fragility, but it seems like fragile seems like the perfect description for a belief system that
literally cannot take critique in any
literally,
any facet
if somebody goes, we don't like how you're always killing people, they're like, well, we're gonna kill you.
Then a big portion of our country goes, to them.
Right.
They cheer on well, you shouldn't insult their culture. And I'm like, what you're a colonialist.
Now, so this is the thing.
Imperialist, bad guy. And you're like, what the fuck are we talking about?
When I was thinking about that, I was thinking about the term Islamophobia, which, if I remember right, I don't think I ever really heard until after 9/11. And at that time, like, it was. I remember.
Like, I was on the side, or I was against the people that were like, get everyone that looks like this.
Right.
Like,
and it's not right to go, like, beat up some gas station owner or whatever.
No, that's
you know
idiotic.
what I mean? Of course. But it's like, so that I heard it first probably in that era, and since then it has morphed into this thing of like, okay, so it turned from don't go beat up random Muslims. Good, don't.
Yes, don't do that.
That's good. But then don't criticize the faith whatsoever. Don't point out. It turns into now like, don't point out some of the fucking insane statistics in the Islamic world that sound like they couldn't possibly be true but are. And like,
well, that's my main problem with this whole thing.
And then it's also like, if you're in Dearborn, Michigan, and you don't want your entire city council taken over by who you perceive as fundamentalist Muslims, religious fundamentalists of any kind.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, you're an Islamophobe. Like,
or racist.
Where do we draw the line here?
And they say racist. It's like, no. I'm not saying that people from the Middle East that are any other religion are bad. I'm saying this religion itself, its tenets are problematic.
Something about
violent.
Yeah.
They call for no possible dissent. I remember. Okay, so there was.
So is it just that like a fundamental interpretation of the text? I mean, and I do agree with the fact that like people would point out, hey, a fundamental interpretation of the Old Testament could cause all kinds of havoc. Agreed,
sure.
But who's doing that?
But exactly, that's like, not here anymore.
Right. So I mean,
and it is okay. So people would say that there are we have Christian fundamentalists here.
Well, we have like the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah, or like the evangelicals.
They're literally aren't killing anyone, and nobody takes them seriously at all.
Yes,
and if they killed people, maybe we'd take them seriously. It's a lesson to the Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah,
squandering.
Put your money where your mouth is.
There's opportunities out there, folks. Mm-hmm. But no, there was the now infamous Bill Maher and Sam Harris argument with Ben Affleck on Real Time with Bill Maher, when Ben Affleck was calling into question. Basically, Sam Harris was on talking about the faults of the religion of Islam, and how that it's become impossible to call that out because there's such a large portion of this country that will just say you're racist. Yeah. And then Ben Affleck,
they kind of they bristle at any, not even
proceeds to do exactly that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The whole time, like he's basically saying, well, "This is gross. This is racist," and they're like, "No, what are you talking?" Like we're saying that jihadists are supported by the majority of the religion. Even the moderates say that yes, if somebody is considered an apostate and goes against the religion from within the religion, they wouldn't have a problem with them being killed.
Yeah.
Well, that's a fucking problem.
Right.
That's not a good thing to have in a religion.
There's
billions of people.
There's polls after polls and studies after studies done that it's like, yeah, it's not a small sliver of extremists that support this stuff.
That's who's doing it.
Right. In fact, it's the leadership of countries like Iran, like we just showed you.
Yeah.
And has been for 35 years.
Saudi Arabia.
They're not like...
These are powerful people.
Right.
And
that people listen to.
That they have to listen to.
Yeah.
You see what happened. I mean, the Taliban is a fairly good example of what happens under fundamentalist Islamic rule. Mm-hmm. They come back in. Women are no longer allowed in school. You know what I mean? It's just, So my problem with it is I've wondered this for a while now. The left in this country claims to be for gay rights, women's rights, trans rights, minorities, and yet for some reason, when you call out the biggest perpetrator of atrocities on these people in the world, they say, "No, not them. You're racist. You're a bigot. Yeah. You can't criticize that. You're a xenophobe." And it's like, no. But they're the ones doing.
Do we have the phones open? Sorry, I think somebody might have been trying to call.
For sure. Yeah, they're open.
Cool. We'll put the number up for you guys who are unaware, and you can feel free to join the conversation if you like.
Yeah, why not? But yeah, it's struck me as very odd, and just another kind of hypocrisy of sorts.
I see what you're saying, and it's been a point for a long time. It's like Saudi Arabia, they're like throwing gay people off a roof.
They literally do.
You know?
Yeah, like this is not some sort of hyperbole or something. They actually do that. They stone people to death.
So then I think the argument then will always turn to like, well, hey, that's like a corrupt leadership. That's not representative of the faith as a whole, which I get it. And like I was saying this, and it's kind of weird to try to just retrace all of this, although we do it pretty naturally. Like we pretty much just have the same conversations over and over for 10 years. But like Muslims can also be amazing people to talk theology with, because there is a natural sort of inherent intensity that is like can go one way or the other. I think a lot of times, like
sure.
I knew the guy in New Orleans down the street from me. He just was a dude that like ran the store or whatever. But just through conversation, it ended up that every time I'd go there, we'd be talking for 40 minutes, and all this stuff. And they're like very thoughtful and intense people sometimes in a good way too.
Oh yeah.
So there's all of this stuff, but it's like at what point can you not indict like the culture in general when it's producing this much?
That's where I'm. So you obviously would be a problem if you're saying everyone involved in the Muslim religion is this. That's not what most anyone is saying.
No. I know. But what are we really saying?
All right, hold on. Let's just take this call. Okay. Yellow, you are on with Tom and Vinny. What is up?
Hello, sirs. I like to bash all religions equally.
Yes.
So when you point out that when somebody's inside the religion says if somebody says something against it, it's okay to kill them.
Yeah.
My understanding is these are all Abrahamic religions. So I would ask, what happened when the Jews killed Jesus Christ, and then the Christians went on to do the same thing for anybody who spoke out about them? So they're all kind of the same with respect to that.
Not in the modern era.
They that's what I was about to say. They kind of got rid of that, though.
Yeah.
Just like all of them were kind of okay with the idea of impregnated marrying like 9-year-olds.
Yeah,
sure. Some of them who passed that, including just in the last month, the Vatican itself kind of got rid of.
I saw. Did we do that?
Yeah. They just raised the age of consent from 11.
Here's the thing.
So you could say in the modern era, we're still working on it. I guess through not that I'm associated with any of these, but
yeah. Okay, Father.
Dude, I remember this thing from a few years ago. I'm gonna look for it, but I believe in Yemen, a guy had like bought a wife, and she was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
And on their honeymoon,
she died from
being raped to death.
Yeah.
And then a court ruled that was okay because he owned her, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm talking about shit like that.
Yes, and I think everyone that criticizes the religion is talking about
when an 8-year-old
like
comes with a warranty and he actually countersues for his money back, that's a problem.
That's a big problem,
right?
That's not.
And I don't think it should be off the table to criticize. And the problem is, so this is going back to Salman Rushdie. Salman Rushdie basically he wrote a book a fiction novel about with the narrative inside of it was I believe it was a schizophrenic guy actually, the protagonist. But anyways, within it, this guy was discussing or reading or these verses about how the Prophet Muhammad was tricked by these these demon these evil goddesses or whatever.
Yeah.
And which was part of the theology at one point, anyways. And then it was like, no, we don't accept that anymore because this calls into the question the infallibility of the Prophet Muhammad. So that is now stricken from our, from our official dogma. And so just in highlighting that in any way, there was a death fatwa put on him, and everyone was like, oh, okay, but. Bill Maher, you were talking about
he literally lived in hiding for decades.
And just got stabbed.
And was under like the constant protection of the London Police Department and stuff. And
he still had it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's how serious it is. And I saw, Bill Maher was talking about this, and he had made the point, which I haven't always been the biggest fan of his, but he hits the mark a lot of times. But he's.
He does.
He was talking about like, don't talk to me about Islamophobia when even in England he had to be in hiding for 25 years, whatever. And if he had set foot in any Muslim majority country in the entire world, he'd be stabbed within a day. This would have happened 30 years ago,
for sure, and over the last 30 years. Yeah,
and it's absolutely true, and that's crazy. I mean, you could call this a Christian majority or a Christian oriented country or whatever, but which I don't even really know if it's true anymore. But it's still like. I don't know of a lot of places where it's like, I get it. You could be an Indian and go to the wrong town in Alabama and probably have a bad time, but I don't know that you're getting killed, It's like...
I think you could be a lot of things and go to the wrong place here still and have a bad time.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it got a little too carried away post 9/11.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
in some places of the countries that has not gone away yet, it's still you got to keep an eye on them people and that
for
kind
sure.
of stuff.
And you know what?
But at the same time, they're still a little backwards with their laws and their protectionism from criticism of their religion and all that. So I'll leave it with that, guys. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Allahu Akbar to you too.
Allahu Akbar. Yeah. So again, yes, there are always going to be backwards racist idiots. That's just a thing. That's in all countries. That's against all races.
And maybe that's part of the problem with a lot of these countries is like somewhere like Afghanistan, you always had sort of a very, very small elite class, and most of the rest of the country was living with a lot of them without electricity, plumbing still,
for sure.
No dissemination of information. So I mean, you may just sort of have like a hillbilly scenario in a lot of these places.
I mean, it is sort of Stone Age,
and it's easy to recruit desperate people into these fucking death cults, you know what I mean? And
but again, even describing areas of the world that live in those ways, even in saying live in those ways, there are a lot of people that would say you're being racist.
You know what's even
saying it's Stone Age? That's like some sort of like beyond the pale, comment on.
Literally means that's the technology they have.
Yes.
I'm not supposed to notice that. Like,
yeah, I don't. So.
Yeah. I did. You know what? It's funny, that exact thing. I remember talking to a girl like years ago, and I remember saying Stone Age, something about Afghanistan, people in Afghanistan basically living in the Stone Age. And she's like, what do you mean by that? I'm like, oh, I mean, like a lot of big parts of the country haven't advanced in technology past the Stone Age for the most part, you know, and they still like basically live that type of lifestyle. She's like, but she just couldn't have me say that because that just seemed like an insult.
Even if it's a fact.
Yeah, and she kept like kind of trying to reword it and stuff. I'm like, no, literally, if you look at human development, they live like people in the Stone Age lived.
Many of these people are still sort of herding goats on the mountainside and living every day as like hunter-gatherer type, you know what I mean? I mean, just beyond hunter-gatherer. And either way, this is not a critique of the peasant class in the Middle East. You know what I mean?
Although, I mean, that's where you also find like rampant pedophilia.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, that's everywhere. I get it, but
that's here in our our
so maybe
peasant class.
Maybe we'll leave that one alone.
Where is everybody? That's my question.
I don't know.
But whatever.
This is what we always worry about is the missing a week. It's like we're going to lose all our fans. They're going to forget we exist.
And they did.
That's a paranoia I have. Although, you know, it's not like we exactly had what would qualify as throngs.
No,
you know?
there was not people throwing themselves at us.
I'm trying to look this thing up because there's so many things that pop to mind. Remember Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan. Sorry, did I say stand?
Kazakhstan. Yeah, you did.
Whatever. It's kind of hard to like fucking pull this on the fly, but it's just another place where it's like some crazily alarming percentage of marriages are incestual and stuff. And it's like a lot of people don't know what they're supporting when they just blindly equate all cultures and think all cultures are equal. Like I don't know if you can do that. I think all people have the potential of being equal, probably.
Sure.
But like I don't think that
on
means
an individual level, they could be very nice people. They could give you the shirt off the back, right? That's fine.
Sure.
But it doesn't change the fact that their religion dictates that they murder you if you speak out against a certain thing or a certain other thing. That's still also a fact.
And they live these backwards ancient lives.
Yes, and so and again, people will say like, oh, what just because they're not consumerist, fucking Americanized, then that's the epitome of social development. Yeah, kind of. It's not perfect, but we've done something really fucking weird here. We've had relative peace for 200 years in a nation of, hundreds of millions of people that barely see eye to eye on anything. And somehow we've managed to make some shit that, there's not constant warring like it is everywhere fucking in the Middle East.
I mean,
so there is something to be said that you could say, oh, what's better, what's not better. Well, I think that's better.
We do have our pockets where it's constant warring. I was thinking about that not long ago, where it's like I've seen videos in the past year or two in Chicago, Baltimore, wherever.
Oh, sure.
That if you just looked at that video and it was like, look, shooting in the streets in Yemen, you'd be like, oh, those backwards motherfuckers again. But it's, I don't know, it's a tough one because, it's happening here in very like select little areas, but it's not religious based, I guess. So
that's territorial and money and
that's the drug war.
Yeah,
that's it. Apparently, Kazakhstan. Incest is legal. So I take back what I said. It's legal. That makes it right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's fine.
It's not a problem. Never mind.
If it's good for the god, it's good for the gander.
Yeah.
I think that's what they say. But yeah, hey Karina, what's up? Michael, Trump fucked that up. Fucked what up? That it was not a warring country? No.
What?
I don't think we're at wars with each other.
It started no foreign entanglements for like the first time in my entire lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Under Trump, there literally was the first time with no foreign wars.
Well, nothing new.
Wars. New wars. And I'm not saying that was him. I don't know what the hell happened, but it is a statistic that'll go down.
Probably had nothing to do with it.
It really probably didn't. It was just total happenstance, but it did happen. So. But yeah, we've lived in relative peace in this country since the Civil War, and that's
right up until they stabbed Salman Rushdie.
Yeah, now it's on, boys. And girls, now it's on.
So that was the original point of this. Is like this guy is a thoughtful, insightful, intelligent writer, and because of his creative twist on an old Islamic verse was finally many years later stabbed in the eye. He's gonna lose his eye, I think.
Oh, for sure.
He's all
That's
fucked
gone.
up.
Yeah, he got stabbed.
The guy stabbed him like
lot.
10 times,
Yeah,
and they
he got
caught
stabbed
him.
a lot.
I wrote his name down at some point. Let's see, it was Hadi Matar or something.
Hadi Matar.
Yeah,
from New Jersey.
Yeah, so they caught
Right
him
off the pike.
They caught him at the scene and everything, just to kind of we just go off on some crazy.
Well, yeah, I
gag,
thought
but, like,
so. There was
never
another
really told the story.
Another thing that I thought was interesting about this was there's I maybe some people are familiar with this woman, maybe not.
Oh, real quick, I know where you're going, but real quick,
yeah.
I just also wanted to add, I had a quick note that, like, all over the Muslim world, not just Iran, there was praise for the attack. And I saw it myself
for sure.
in YouTube comments all over the place, people being like, praise him for doing the work of Allah or whatever the fuck. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's, I mean, it wasn't like...
We're just painting the picture of how crazy this world
wasn't,
can be.
it wasn't criticized openly.
No.
For sure. I didn't see many of that cloth criticizing what had happened. So... I always think so. This is an interesting character in this world, and her name was Ayaan Hirsi Ali.
Yeah,
and she came to my attention.
You've told me about
a couple
her before.
years ago. Yeah. So Ayaan Hirsi Ali is a Somali-born Dutch-American activist, feminist, and former politician. She received international attention as a critic of Islam and advocate for the rights and self-determination of Muslim women, openly opposing forced marriage, honor killing, child marriage, and female genital mutilation. Which one of the reasons is because she was had that done to her as a child.
Now, I would think that somebody like this would be like heroes of people who subscribe to a political party that claims to champion minorities, immigrants, and women and victims of sexual abuse.
Yes, but oddly enough, widely condemned on the left here.
Get out of town.
It's very odd, and I really don't understand.
It's not like them to do something hypocritical and odd,
or the right, really. But
exactly. Whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, so I've thought that this was a very odd person to be hated on our political left.
Now, why ever would they harbor such
because
ill will
she criticizes
animosity?
Islam and calls them a terrible ideology.
Okay.
So in doing so, apparently that trumps every one of her being a black woman, immigrant, victim. Apparently all of that is done because... So I don't know...
Here's the thing. If you grew up... Let's say this. I'm going to come up with a little analogy on the fly here.
All right.
Let's say this.
Let's hear
You grew up and you were a bat boy for the Cincinnati Reds. Okay? Now, one day, you're cleaning up, getting ready to go home, and one of the Cincinnati Reds comes to the door of the locker room and says, "Hey, kid, come here." Now they take you in there, and one by one, every single member of the Cincinnati Reds rapes and penetrates you while, beating you and abusing you.
How old am I?
Unspoken. You're like 10. Okay, so
just
now,
made the cutoff.
If you grow up and you want to talk shit about the Cincinnati Reds, there should be no one in the world that needs to fucking argue about it. If this lady wants to say fuck Islam, whose business is it of yours after what she's been through? When somebody tells a story like that and they say fuck that thing, you just go, okay.
Yeah, you've shown your cards.
Yeah.
You've shown your colors. Now we know what's going on here.
If you don't agree, you just go, all right, because that person's been through quite a lot. But so she takes a lot of fucking...
Tons. Like total 100% hate. If you ever look at her Twitter or anything, she's constantly been attacked. She's been, denied interviews, you know what I mean? She's been protested at universities. She, it's all under this pretense that she's, Islamophobe and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, no, she's a former Islam survivor that was actually had genital mutilation done to her and escaped the religion narrowly. And by the way, has a fatwa put on her. So she's living in basically living in fear of being killed also.
And that's where the rubber meets the road on this stuff is like, it's hard not to examine as an entire system of belief, a belief system or faith or a religion, whatever. It's hard not to examine the whole thing when it's this prevalent and when it's that real of a threat, to that many people. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Because you don't want to condemn every person doing it, but it's hard not to condemn the thing as on a whole, I guess, right? Or to look at 100%. It as a monolith in certain ways. I don't know how not to.
No, you can't. Well, the thing is
Same way Christianity to me on a whole is annoying.
Yeah,
and it's been annoying to me my whole life.
Either. Yeah, but I can say that, and this
doesn't make me hate
all
Christians. I don't care.
Yeah, this is another odd thing to me is everyone in this country that has the opinion or view that like Christians right now like have all the power and they blah blah blah, they everyone always ripped on them, and I did too when they were like, oh, I can't say Merry Christmas, and remember this whole thing.
Yeah,
I can't say I'm not gonna say Happy Holidays, it's Christmas, it's my whatever.
I never really cared about that.
No, it was idiotic.
It's like nobody, that whole thing of like you're taking away Christmas. Like, no, you stay Christmas. Say Merry Christmas to everyone you see. I don't give a shit. But
yeah, like nobody gave a shit.
Like, it's that literally giant corporations might be trying to acknowledge that like there's 100 other holidays going on. Yeah. So instead of printing every single one, somebody came up with Happy Holidays.
Yeah,
big fucking deal.
Yeah. Christians, get Jesus the fuck over it, you babies.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that was silly.
Yeah.
But to try to say,
if it was Muslim, that would have been fucking death worthy.
Yes,
something like that.
That's my point.
Yeah.
My point is who really has the power when which one of them is held above critique? Which one of them is it off the table to criticize at all? It's not Christians because they get fucking ripped on by atheists and everyone sort of on the woke brigade. They'll land them all day long. Nobody says shit.
Right.
You can't say it doesn't matter. And I can sit here and say anything I want about Christianity or Christians. I could remember there was that one sculpture or that art piece where it was like a crucifix in piss. It was called Piss Christ.
Oh, Piss Christ, yeah.
Yeah, Piss Christ.
I think I was young enough.
Could you imagine if somebody tried to do that with with a thing of Muhammad?
I'm sure people have, but
the fucking world would have exploded. They draw a picture of him and fucking...
South Park did some wacky shit with Muhammad, and some people have done it, but I'm sure there's probably a fatwa against against them too.
Yeah, I would not...
Look that up, maybe.
Yatsik Radbeat. Okay, so Tony Johnson says, there was another Israeli leader that was shot to death that was thought of one that could have brought peace to the entire Middle East. His name is slipping my mind due to getting older age, but it was widely agreed upon that he could have brought a peaceful solution to that area. I'll send his name when I think. Okay, Yatsik Rabin. Yeah, I mean, and again, now there's this big,
Oh, that's right. They were all right. South Park was censored after a threat of fatwa over Muhammad episode back in 2010. There we go. I remember that now that I see it. But yeah,
we can also. I mean, you brought up the Draw Muhammad contest shooting. This was something that happened. When was this?
It's been a few years, man. It might even be 10 years ago.
Yeah. But there was a Draw Muhammad contest in Texas, and they were doing this, intentionally to provoke, because they were like, no, nobody's above critique, and we can draw a picture of something without threats of death.
Right.
And what happened? Well, there was 2 gunmen were killed as a security guard was shot outside the Draw Muhammad contest in Garland, Texas. So it doesn't seem equal. Like, you don't have a lot of, rabbis or priests shooting up anything.
Well, and that's so even back in the more fanatical days of Christianity in this country, there were still very harsh critics and well-known atheists and stuff like that, and they weren't being killed for it even back then.
No. So. Yeah, I don't know. Let me just
maybe if you went back to the 1700s, there probably was some stuff.
For sure.
You had the Salem witch trials.
Yes, that wasn't people that were speaking out against the religion. That was people that were just thought of as being witches because they were insane.
Since the railroad, have we been doing this? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so I did find this interesting because it was hard to even find. Because,
so this is the lady you were talking about.
Yeah, this is Ayan Hirsi Ali, and again, she has to now write for the Washington Post, which is a right-wing rag. But that's the only one.
Is that like the only people that'll take her? Because
the only people that talk to her are like Fox News and fucking.
How crazy is it?
I know that's who's giving this woman a platform.
Yeah.
And everyone else refuses to allow her a platform, and I'm like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So
it's fucking bizarro.
So this is, I once wanted to burn the satanic verses. Now I weep for Salman Rushdie. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but in 1989, I wanted to burn Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses, but I couldn't afford to buy a copy, even if only to set it ablaze without reading it. I was a teenager in Kenya, a Muslim with the religious convictions of the young, eager to obey the edicts of highly religious authorities. When Iran's Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini issued a fatwa calling for the death of the Satanic Verses author, I thought he was standing up for Islam and for me. So a group of us did the best we could. We scribbled the book's title on a piece of cardboard and burned that.
So that was the reaction of a poor child with no skin in the game.
Exactly. Just living
just
under
ideological
those edicts, basically.
Fervor.
Yes.
That's it.
If Rushdie had been murdered then, I would have been happy. Now that he has been nearly killed in a knife attack, I am shattered. In the intervening years, I came to realize that the religion of my youth was an oppressive, dangerous version of the faith. Forced into marriage in the early 1990s, I fled to the Netherlands, where I successfully sought political asylum. There I studied political science, later becoming a member of parliament, and I watched the mounting anger and horror as radical Islam pursued its war on modern civilization. Perhaps these words can still be said on Western civilization. So,
yeah. And Iran is another, like
it's
we were
a good
talking
article.
about earlier, before they took power, you know, it was a very, for lack of a better term, westernized.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like
for
that's
sure.
a patronizing
So
thing.
was Libya.
But yeah, a modernized. I have a buddy that I work with once in a while that lived in Iran as a child, and you know, just told me about the insane changes. You know, that took place.
I
He's
once
like,
had relations with a Persian girl.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and I knew her for a little bit, and it was she was awesome. I won't mention her name. She was cool, and she was hot as fuck.
Okay.
But I remember her and her
no less.
yes, and I remember her and her cousin came out to visit. They live in California and whatever. But I knew her for a while, and I would ask her sometimes about, you know what I mean, being here rather than there. She had family in Iran. They were Iranian, and I think some of them were Iraqi. I think Persians spanned that area originally, and it's like not. It's not the current, borders don't dictate where, you know what I'm saying?
Right, they're a nationality that
that
transcends borders.
Chaldeans. That's another one. When I lived in Detroit, there was the Chaldean mob, which is apparently fairly prominent and powerful in the Arab.
we have
American.
hillbillies, you know. They're all over a bunch of different states.
Yes,
yeah.
Or I mean, it's more like if you had, Catholics.
Or Asian carp.
Like Catholics are here.
Asian carp, no?
No.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember in Detroit being like, because I believe they were Assyrian, or no, that was another one. They would say that they were Assyrian.
Oh, okay.
Not Syrian. Assyrian from like biblical times.
Right.
And they claimed like ownership of these certain countries, like that, like it's not legit. These new borders and these new governments and whatnot. They were the rightful owners. So the Persians and the Assyrians and the Chaldeans and shit.
Old land wars, yeah.
Yeah. Now we've gotten off track.
Yeah. Where are we going with this?
I don't know. Detroit was cool.
Oh yeah. It was.
Yeah.
Before
until
you
the
know
Chaldean mob came in.
Before you know
now,
who.
These fuckers, I shouldn't even say anything. They were fucking crazy, man. They were like the Mexican mafia and shit. They were eager to prove themselves. But yeah, so I guess
I've already threatened the Latin kings.
You really did.
Made all kinds of ridiculous claims on this show.
I've taken that back many times.
I'm trying to cut back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of the Chaldean mob, the Persian mob, and the.
In fact, I think in the beginning of the show, I was claiming that the Latin kings had declared a fatwa on me.
Yes.
If I remember right, actually. So this all ties together.
Yeah, those were drunken days, weren't they?
Yeah, man.
That was great.
Just idiotic to the core.
Yeah, fools
all the time.
I can't believe any of you guys are still here after all that nonsense. But you are, and thanks for being here. How about last week? That was fucking idiotic, huh?
Mm-hmm. Everybody happy with that we're back at it and struggling through another episode. What are we on?
Is this 40, the entire time?
43?
It is 43.
Holy shit! We should be better at this by now.
We really should. We'll tighten it up, folks.